What's up, everyone? This is Anthony Gallegos from IGN alongside James Lopez, a producer at Gearbox Software.
Hi.
And you guys are working on this, the new DLC.
Yes.
So what exactly? Where am I?
All right, so right now you're in Hunter's Grotto, which is on a new continent on Pandora called Agris. You are accompanying Hammerlock for a fun-filled weekend of hunting and friendship.
So what are we, I guess, we're here, and really we're just supposed to be on like a weekend hunting trip, having a good time, like any sort of gentleman of this type would do. But obviously there's more to it than that. I mean, what kind of separates this DLC from, the past DLCs that you guys have done? Like, what makes this one special?
Okay, well, I mean, it's an entirely new area. We have indigenous creatures that are only going to be found on Agris that you won't find anywhere else, with their own unique challenges. There's also new human enemies, the savages, that are controlled by your soon-to-be arch nemesis, and they also have their own challenges. Probably some of them are a little more challenging than others. Probably the most difficult one to fight is going to be the witch doctor, who you will probably see quite shortly can cause a lot of mischief.
Yeah, so I mean, one of the things I know that you guys wanted to do is you wanted to make sure that the enemies weren't simply, they're not just reskins of what we've seen before. And I think once we get to a witch doctor, you kind of get an idea for that. Like, these basic warriors feel a lot similar to some of the other, warrior guys that we fought previously.
Yeah, they might feel a little like nomads in the sense that they have the shields. They're definitely faster moving, but once the witch doctor comes into play, this all goes right out the window. You see how they're glowing right there.
Yeah, and actually the witch doctor leveled him up into this new warrior who's obviously a lot faster, doing these crazy rolls in my face.
Yeah, he went from level 32 to 33, becoming stronger, gaining new abilities, and if you don't drop the witch doctor fast enough, they will continue to level up. I've seen them go as high as 7 levels before someone finally took down the witch doctor. So you definitely have to be careful. You might also notice that they're starting at levels 32 and 33, which is not a coincidence. This time around, they all start at the higher end of the levels for each playthrough. We definitely make the assumption that you've completed the main game's campaign. I don't want to review. We don't need to reveal the plot in case you haven't. But I will say that Handsome Jack, the main villain, plays a role in this DLC, and so it's very important that you finish the primary game before jumping in this, lest you have things spoiled for you. Very much so.
That being said, it's a level 30 starting DLC, so around the time that you're level 30, that should be kind of you finishing up your first playthrough anyways.
Definitely the sweet spot. I mean, if you go in any earlier, it's going to be pretty challenging.
So, the game starts off being about this kind of weekend trip, but you actually introduce a new villain into it too.
In fact,
there he is, on cue. So, he's this crazy guy that's working with these savages, and but obviously he has greater plans than that. That again, I don't want to reveal because we don't want to spoil too much. But let's talk about the environment that we're kind of seeing in this world. This land of Agris, it's a new continent, very swampy, and so to that end, I know that you guys are introducing a new vehicle.
Yes, for Agris, we have a fan boat. It might feel similar in handling to the sand skiff from Pirate's Booty, but it very clearly has its own kind of handling, and it has its own weapons that are very interesting. Probably my favorite one is the flamethrower, which even though you're driving around attacking creatures that are in the water, you still set them on fire because nothing is simple or anything of the sort on Pandora.
Sure, and plus one thing I've always liked about Borderlands, and I think that this DLC kind of keeps with, is that it's not so much about being realistic, right? Borderlands has never been about being an ultra-realistic shooter as much as it's been about, how can we make this ridiculous and fun? Right.
Yeah, it's always been about kind of over-the-top action, about doing things that defy logic.
So I know that, on top of this, like the other DLCs, I know that you guys are planning on adding a new raid boss as well.
Yes, that's something that we've wanted to deliver with every new campaign DLC, is at least one additional Seraph Guardian, which are the raid bosses that drop Seraph crystals. This time around, we have a new powerful Stalker. version whose name is Veracitus, and he has some very interesting mechanics. I think that anyone who thinks that they can just go in with a conference call or a baby maker is going to have some very surprising challenges.
Well, that's good, because I know that everyone's always asking, what are you guys doing to make it better for the highest level, elite sort of players?
Absolutely. Right now, the character progression caps at 50, and after a while, if you farm all of the golds, you might be wondering like, well, what else is there for me to do? Well, that's where the raid bosses come in, because they have mechanics, they have challenges. They're not just supposed to be, they're not just supposed to soak up bullets. They're going to be hard, and I think we've done a pretty great job of that so far. I think Veracitus is by far the most challenging of the fights. And if you go into this thing that you can just shoot your way through it, it's going to be hard.
Yeah, of course you don't want to reveal it, because Veracitus, I imagine, will have unique mechanics that you guys are trying to orient around, like organized raid groups, basically.
Absolutely. We want people to play together. We want people to enjoy Borderlands the way that we always intended to be, which was with 4 players.
But obviously this DLC, I'm playing it solo, so if you don't want to play with people, do you have that option?
Absolutely. There's always the option to play this alone.
Oh man, Witch Doctor. So I think that the Witch Doctors kind of add a different dynamic, because they make them like a priority target.
Yeah.
They'll heal, they'll level guys up. I mean, they can be such a pain if you don't take care of them.
Yeah, so like you're doing it right by targeting him first. The second that he appeared, he already summoned 1 additional warrior. Imagine if you let him go unchecked, how many of these guys he can bring in.
Oh man.
Individually, 1 or 2 warriors on their own might not be a big threat, but even now, with just basic weapons, they're a significant threat to you. I mean, your health right now is
I'm not doing so hot. So I know that you were, we've talked about the leveling system a little bit. The skilled versus the savage warrior, and this kind of replaces the typical like ranks of like badass, super badass. Mm-hmm. But unlike the previous ones, where maybe the badasses, they still fought the same, they just had a little bit more health, maybe did a little bit more damage. Can you maybe speak a little bit about like the way that they actually change when they upgrade?
Yeah, so I've seen one before that went to like to level 34 and was called the Animal Warrior. And at that point, although it still looks like a savage warrior, he starts to run on all 4s and do jump attacks, things like that clearly distinguish that level of enemy from a different level. The level 31 and 32, those are savage triggermen, and so they use guns, very clear. Now those just leveled up, so now they're skilled triggermen, which means that they're going to be more accurate. They're going to do more combat rolls, things like that. Eventually, they're going to level up and they can do even more things. They'll become more aggressive, more powerful, more accurate. Something else that's interesting about the Witch Doctor, as you see here, is that he just transformed into a whirlwind. While he's there, it's almost impossible to kill him. Oof. And he'll wreck house.
Hold on, I was hoping that he would, oh yeah, there we go. Oh. He just upgraded him again into bloodthirsty triggerman. Mm-hmm. I might die here. Hold on, everyone. I'll be right back. Let's see. Well, obviously it's still a challenge. That's important to people.
Yeah. I think that anyone that goes in thinking that they're just going to rush through it is going to be surprised. That they might be similar in level, but I would say that the challenge level is different. You definitely need to err on the side of caution. Definitely bring good gear with you, a good variety, and spec accordingly.
And as far as like the length of the DLC content, the amount of environments we've seen, we can expect it to be similar to the Pirate's Booty or the Mr. Torg's DLC?
Absolutely. We want people to get the best bang for their buck. We want to tell stories, and we want people to have a fun time playing it, and we want them to play for a long time. You have your campaign, but in addition to that, we also have hunting side quests in here, some of which take a very long time. In fact, there's one that you acquire very early on, in fact, shortly after this mission, that it's going to take you hours to complete. And that's because it's not just outright hunting. It's not a simple matter of just going somewhere and shooting something. It's about finding the creatures at the right time, under the right circumstances. Some only come out in the morning, some only come out at night, some only come out in certain areas.
So actually kind of hunting to an extent,
There's some legitimate stalking involved.
Oh, he's healing
as well.
himself. Ah, gosh.
And he's also leveling up the guys behind him.
I know, the Witch Doctors are tough. Oh, yes. Okay.
Very nice. I was holding my breath there for you.
Oh my gosh. Well, like I was saying, it is a challenge.
So when you went into fight for your life mode, I'm not sure if you noticed, but there was a yellow starry effect on you, and that was actually a status effect that was put on you by the shaman before you took him down. So in addition to all of their other abilities, they can also basically debuff you as well.
Oh wow!
They are meant to be tough. If you're just shooting them in the face, it's not going to end well for you. You have to work the angles. You have to try to fight intelligently. And these warriors are definitely not making life easy for you.
No,
either.
and like I said, you can see the difference between them and the savage version, because the skilled ones do that roll that kind of makes them a little bit harder to target.
Yep.
Oh. There, case in point, right there.
That roll can be a nightmare.
It works surprisingly well. I can't believe how big of a difference it makes. But yeah, that's good. Oh, sorry.
I was going to say, that's just a sampling of the enemies in here. So we, if you look up, that is basically an environmental hazard up there that looks very harmless, right? It just looks like some kind of flowery jellyfish combo. But if you piss that thing off, it's going to chase you down, and it'll punish you for shooting at it.
Yeah, so I think that's one thing that's really cool. You know, maybe some of the other DLCs, people have, you know, lobbied the complaint that a lot of the enemies just felt like reskins of previous enemies.
Sure.
But I think that, you know, you guys are very clearly trying to do something different here with the enemy types to make them feel very distinct compared to what we've seen before.
Absolutely. We want to provide variety. We don't want it to feel like the same old experience every time.
So, James, when will people finally be able to get their hands on the DLC?
January 15th.
And that will be for all platforms for $10?
Yes,
and free for season pass holders.
Yes, $9.99 and free to season pass holders.
And so for a lot, that's a general overview of the Borderlands 2 DLC, and for a lot more on Borderlands 2, you should always go to IGN.